Hello Game and Hunt and everybody in South Africa. This is Adri and this is my last feedback on CITES Cop18 from Geneva in Switzerland. Now with 107 plus approximately 50 plus agenda items, it's no wonder that it took almost 2 weeks and 2 dedicated committees to work through the CITES Cop agenda. And I say 107 plus 50 plus items, as the list of more than 50 proposals for amendment of Appendices 1 and 2 on CITES was listed as one item on the agenda. So we had to work through approximately 160 items. Now, all resolutions taken at the first few days committee meetings were referred to the closing plenary meeting over the last 2 days of the convention for acceptance or review. Now let me start with the sad news first. The listing of all giraffe on CITES Appendix 2 was approved at the plenary meeting. 106 countries voted in favour of that proposal to list all giraffe on CITES Appendix 2. A plea by Eswatini for party support of their proposal regarding the white rhino was also rejected. The proposal was rejected by almost the same number of votes as the number of votes in favour of listing the giraffe. 102 countries voted against Eswatini's proposal. Another real shocker was when Namibia's proposal to downlist their white rhino from Appendix 1 to Appendix 2 with a notation was also rejected. There is absolutely no biological reason why Namibia's rhino should be listed under Appendix 2. And so we can go on. A proposal by Zambia to downlist their elephant population from Appendix 1 to Appendix 2, subject to certain conditions, were also rejected, with 102 countries voting against it. A proposal by Botswana, Namibia and Zimbabwe regarding their elephant was also rejected by 101 countries. So the trend is clear. The votes against proposals from SADC countries, in other words, pro-sustainable use countries, followed the trend of 101, 102, 104 votes. So all these decisions were made in advance of time. So it is fact, the vast majority of countries who voted against these proposals are not or never have been range states. It's just such a pity that scientific evidence and facts provided by South Africa and other SADC countries with thriving and growing populations were disregarded during the voting processes. But I also have some encouraging news. Actually, I cannot give feedback without first recognizing the South African government officials and the scientific authority. Nobody here at CITES COP could be mistaken about South Africa's stance on sustainable use and that it forms part of conservation. And also South Africa's belief that resolutions should be made on science-based info and facts. We can really be proud that our country, South Africa, has played a leading role here at COP18. But to get back to some achievements, the plenary on Tuesday adopted the proposal that the total number of hunting trophies of adult black rhino be amended from 5 per annum to a number not exceeding 0.5% of the black rhino population in South Africa in the year of export. Now, this more flexible quota system means that the number of permits issued for hunting can be increased or decreased depending on the size of the population. The plenary also confirmed on Tuesday that a quota be allowed for the hunting of leopard in South Africa based on a model of adaptive management. At the previous COP meeting, which was held in Johannesburg in 2016, the CITES Standing Committee was tasked to draft a document regarding the conservation of lion. Togo and Niger were two countries who were not happy with the contents of that document, and they have actually made another separate proposal, which was considered here at COP18 in Geneva, and it was not supported. So a new committee will be formed now to draft a document and look into the conservation of big cats in general, which will then be discussed at the next CITES COP meeting. And then on the plant side, where South Africa also play a leading role, the listing of aloe ferox or bitter aloe was amended to exempt the seeds and finished products from artificially propagated plants from CITES trade controls under Appendix 2. Looking back at the past week or so, we may all have a reason to leave this convention fairly negatively. Negative because science don't seem to play a role anymore. Negative because it seems as if there's an actual attack on pro-sustainable use and on countries supporting pro-sustainable use. I don't think it seems like that. I think it's a fact. Negative because countries who are not range states for many of the species have the right to decide how it should be managed, most probably into extinction because of their short-sightedness. But I think we can learn from this experience. One lesson that we who were here and experience the day-to-day happenings can learn or should have learned from the protectionist groups in action in the committee meetings is that communication and unified approaches are key. Whenever an anti-sustainable use group intervened at the convention, that person listed up to 25 other organizations' names on whose behalf they intervened. And those other 25 organizations were all present in the room. And that means that they have all concurred beforehand and they've all agreed on the input. They have worked on that and they've communicated. And all 25 organizations' names were repeated often and regularly and are taken up in the minutes. We fell far short from that, with at the most maybe 6 names that we could list. So as pro-sustainable use groups and countries, we have no option to now, not later, now, up our communication and collaboration to have a unified approach, whatever that might be. We've said it for years. But it might now even be more relevant than ever. We cannot work in silos, not as organizations and not as countries. But having said that, I need to share with you, I got goosebumps to experience a SADC country's unified approach and support for one another over the past few days on various issues. And this was once again very, very clear at the first session of the plenary session on Tuesday, when Zimbabwe raised a dispute based on a matter of law and was supported by all SADC countries, including South Africa, who raised at least 3 points of order. In fact, the chairman of the plenary committee actually closed the session almost half an hour earlier before lunch for everyone to take a break. But I think we can all congratulate SADC on how they stood firm on their positions. We need to know, us who are here and everybody who is there back in South Africa, all the organizations and government, there's a lot of hard work to be done to ensure unified approaches amongst pro-sustainable use groups, pro-sustainable use countries for the future. This is Adri Kitshoff-Botha, Wildlife Ranch in South Africa from Geneva, Switzerland.